Hello everyone and welcome to my advanced, so much though, guide on Moira. Let's get right into it. Now something you might notice about Moira straight away is that she is quite possibly the highest DPS healer in the game. That does a lot of things for her. For one, while she has this high DPS, that also means she can't just have this super high healing, then she'd be a fucking god. Basically. Not really. That's a really bad comparison. Now, while in some people's opinions and statements, it is stated that Moira will be so much more viable with this better healing, that's kind of the point of Moira's character. She's not supposed to have high healing and constant healing. I mean, she has high healing, but she doesn't have it constant. She doesn't have a constant stream like every single other healer ever. She can't do it unlimited. She has a little limit bar, as you can see on the right. But the thing about this is you don't need to really spray it that much. You only need to tap it because it has a little hot effect afterwards. And what the hot effect is when you spray someone just a little bit, it still rubs off a bit of extra healing on them. And this makes Moira's healing very useful, because I don't think many other healers do that. I really don't know the statistics of other healers, but something I do know is that Moira has that, and it's very useful to her kit. That's what people get confused about, is people think that you have to constantly spray Moira's healing or else it won't work at all. And they think that's a bit stupid because it wears off in like, what, 7 seconds? So it's a pretty low amount of healing you can do every once in a while. But while that is a disadvantage of her healing and her kit, she is awesome when going with flankers. Like, I'm not joking. The thing about it is, when she's going with flankers, she can handle herself. By that, I mean she can heal herself, she can damage other people, she can heal the flankers, she can throw an orb out for them. Like, it's very easy to go in with flankers. I mean, as long as you got a sense of what you're doing, then yeah, it's pretty easy to go in with flankers. Now, defense is where things get tricky. Now, what you're seeing right now isn't no competitive gameplay, I'll admit that. You can clearly see that, and it really isn't the best professional game you'll ever see in your life of Moira. I'm sure there's already #1 Moira who's 10 times better than me and knows exactly what they're doing and can describe Moira 10 times better than me, but who knows? I'm sure I'm somewhere up there. Probably not, but let me think I am. But on defense, Moira, how do I say this? She kind of loses a purpose, a bit of it. Because her purpose, I believe, is to be able to go in and be able to flank with other heroes and possibly help a big group of tanks. That's what she's good for. Helping flankers and healing tanks, big tanks. But on defense, she kind of loses that purpose to push. Now, if you run a dive defense, which is something I discovered recently, it sounds stupid, but it works sometimes. You stand in packs and you wait for enemies to start pushing in, then you push them out. The big hole in that though is if a small group of enemies, like 2 enemies that seem dangerous, go in one side and then most of your team goes in, but then the bigger group comes in another side, then you got a problem. And that's one of the comps Moira is good at, like dive defense. because she's very good at flanking, diving, pushing, anything involving DPS and moving forward. You got it. She's there. She can help you with that. On defense, though, you're defending a solid point, so it's not very easy for Moira, but once you get the hang of it, you'll start to kind of realize you can do attack certain people. Like if you're good enough, you can attack a Junkrat, because if they don't have a good enough aim and they're not good at making those ricochets and hitting those direct hits, then they can't hit you, especially since you have such ridiculous range. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could snipe an attacking fair out of the sky. Something I would like to point out is, a while ago, my horrendous ult. I ran in, seeing that there was like 5 low health people for I don't know how many. But, like, when you see that as DPS characters, you look at that like a little golden token. But here's the thing. If they have, like, a single defense character on their team with them, just don't do it. It's probably not a good idea. Especially since they had Junkrat, who can, like, kill me in 2 shots. Even when I'm using my ult, he has a very wide burst damage. Like, it can screw you up, no matter what you're doing. If you have on a nano boost, even though that shit, like, increases your shields, I'm pretty sure he can still shred through you pretty fast. But Moira can shred through him as well. Moira's, like, when it comes to eliminating smaller people that the enemy team doesn't really notice too much, is, I mean, that's her specialty. That's what she can do. That's what she does best, especially on defense. If you see someone pushing, or like maybe 2 lower health characters, like I'd say 8 flanker characters, Tracer, McCree. If that McCree can't hit his shots on you, and you use Fade properly, you're good to go. And if that Tracer can't land her shots or put a pulse bomb on you when you don't have Fade, you're good to go. Back to the subject of the ult that I don't believe I finished. It looks like a golden opportunity, right? A bunch of low health people, but there's a Junkrat. This is where you really want to think about how you're going to use your ult, offensively or defensively. You could heal your team with it, but it's not an ult canceller. It is kind of your team's low and your team's starting to get lower in a team fight. Hey, maybe I should pop my ult. Maybe I can get a kill or 2 to weigh the battle towards my teammates. But there's also the offensive way to use it. You wait for the enemy to get low, maybe throw a damage orb in there, and do your stuff. Now, something I've seen people do as Moira, something very smart, is throwing out a healing orb and then following that healing orb up with a coalescence. What that does is, if you're effectively using that healing biotic orb, if you go in with the coalescence, even when you're getting damage, you're still getting healed, but maybe not to the rate you'd want. With the healing biotic orb, you're almost invincible during that period of time. So while you do not too much damage, once you get better at tracking with Moira, you could like screw some people up with that. You could destroy. Her coalescence hurts in a big way. Now that is not to say charge in with your coalescence into a corridor of 4 people because they're in a corridor and they're like in like a little bar down of health. If you have maybe a D.Va, maybe even Doomfist, maybe Roadhog or someone, some kind of tank, maybe then, sure, why not? But if you're alone, and it's like flanker heroes, attack heroes, tank heroes, they can take that damage if they're tanks, so for one, that seems kind of stupid. For two, if they're flanker heroes, they can put out enough DPS in a while to shut you down. And if their defense, if they're good with their shots and their burst damage, they can wipe you out. Something completely off the subject of coalescence is Moira's biotic orbs. These are very valuable tools in her game set, and honestly, when in my own personal gameplay, my healing orbs are more valuable than my coalescence. You could take that as either I don't use my coalescence good enough, which I could definitely improve on it, definitely, but I don't use it the worst. Sometimes I get a bit of good out of it. Or you could take that as coalescence just isn't as efficient as biotic orb. Now let me make this clear. Coalescence is clearly superior to biotic orb. It does more damage over time, and it does way more healing over time as well. It does more healing than damage. But the thing about that is, coalescence destroys your ability to fade and throw out a biotic orb. So it's taking away three key. That's taking away not three, two key abilities. Biotic orb and not fade. That's a very important tool. Without fade, Moira would have to be a completely different character. But the thing about her biotic orbs is they do 300 health, and they do 300 damage depending on which biotic orb you use. But they do it very slowly. Now, depending on how many targets it's logged onto, it will do 150 damage to 2 targets if it locks on at the exact same time and does the exact same amount of damage to both of them. So the fact that it can lock on to multiple targets makes it a good, kind of janitor tool, as I like to call it. Like cleaning up the little scraps of your teammates. And then the healing is almost like, you could think of it as a guiding tool. The healing biotic orb, you could think of as a guiding tool. If you tell your team, hey, I'm going to throw a biotic orb in as a signal that it's okay to go in, and your team listens to you, and your healer's ready to back up your own healing, then you should use it like that. You should use it as so. It's very useful. It can encourage your team to push even if they're not talking. It's quite a powerful tool, mentally as well. And when you think about the biotic orb, it can heal half a tank's health, or half an average, like half the highest health tank, like Roadhog and such. And it can heal Zarya and Orisa at almost full health, as long as it's focusing on it alone. Like I said, both the damage orb and the healing orb do like 150 if they're divided into two. They do 150 damage to the 2 targets they're locked onto, as long as I, or we, or anyone. Okay, let's just make this a lot more simple by saying blah 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 biotic orb blah blah blah, copy and paste what I said about damage orb doing 150 damage to 2 targets as long as it locks onto them at the exact same time and does the same amount of damage to them, and they basically follow it as soon as they get locked on. And that's what the healing orb does to you and your tanks and your flankers or whatever, or whoever you're using it on. I'm just saying whatever because Orisa's a robot, Bastion's a robot, Zenyatta's a robot. You never know when they could use healing. Bastion's, ironically, not a lot for some reason, because I honestly barely ever have a Bastion on my team anymore. I should probably go get a soda before I finish editing this video. Now, a while ago in this particular video, not in another video, that's not what I mean by a while ago, I literally mean like a while ago, at least for me. Unless you like paused the video at that exact moment right before this one and went to like, I don't know, fucking Taco Bell and bled from your anus for 3 months and then came back to this video and you're like, a while ago, well that must have been in another video. And just no, you're just stupid. I'm sorry. But people mistake her damage so much for like some kind of tank killer, like it's the savior of all DPS, like it's some kind of tracer or it's a Junkrat. No, it isn't. It does very little damage. People say that because what they sometimes do not see is the biotic orb, damage biotic orb in the background, sitting there doing all this extra damage, and they don't see that. They just think Moira is shredding through the targets. And that brings me to another subject. I really want people to stop comparing Moira to Symmetra and Zenyatta. Oh yeah, they have the same, they're alike, alright, but only on a base level. Moira has a damage orb, Moira has a healing orb, Zenyatta has a harmony orb, he also has a discord orb. Discord improves the damage of your entire team. It doesn't damage things itself. And I don't believe either of them are gravity law defying bouncy balls. Are they? No, they're not. So, and another thing, Symmetra. Oh, I hate that comparison so much. Zenyatta was okay. But when people say Symmetra, like they usually do when they say she's just like Symmetra and Zenyatta, Symmetra, the way they put it into a sentence, it makes Symmetra, makes them sound like they're angry that she's like Symmetra, and rightfully so. You don't want another copy hero like Orisa. Rightfully so, again. But the thing about this is, she's not like Symmetra at all. She doesn't do increased damage over time. She doesn't nearly have as much leniency when it comes to locking on a Symmetra. They're not even the same type. They don't really even do the same type of thing. Yes, they do damage, but like Symmetra's just does damage, raw damage, while Moira pumps out healing when she's doing damage. So they're two different weapons. As also, just how did they make that comparison when she's already been? I don't think they nerfed her straight out of the PTR, but they're about to nerf her aim again. Then you guys can't compare her to Symmetra because she's gonna have to do tracking. Symmetra really doesn't have to do that much tracking besides at least having the crosshair in the general area of the enemy. So it's pretty easy to it's very easy to construe what the Overwatch community is saying about Moira, especially when people most people just watch the funny haha memes. Oh, she's just like Symmetra and Zenyatta. And then people play her thinking that she is legitimately lost. Maybe not fully in mind, but subconsciously thinking it, because they too have repeated those same words themselves and have heard other people say it. So they subconsciously believe that. And they think they can run in, do damage, and pump out constant healing, and it's not like that. And it's very easy to take a joke way too seriously and people to... That's why Doomfist got a bad rep. Everyone thought that, oh, Doomfist is going to be some super tank or like some kind of super tank. No, he didn't turn out to be. Surprise. Because they nerfed him. Now, maybe the nerf wasn't really required. I'm not going to get into my opinion of that. But I will say that the nerf was one of the more extensive ones, but Doomfist is still strong. He's still pretty fun and at least somewhat simple and easy to play. And I hope Moira remains that way, but people are already making a joke out of her because It's like when a new girl comes to school. Every single girl there makes fun of her for absolutely no reason at all whatsoever. It doesn't matter who they are. They could be the president's daughter for all they care. As long as they get a laugh out of it, they're gonna make fun of her. That's what happened with Doomfist. That's what happened with Orisa because of the whole clusterfuck thing. And that's what's gonna happen with Moira. Sad as it may be, I'm pretty sure it's what's gonna happen with her. People are gonna take her as a joke. That's why no one wants her playing her in competitive. No one wanted Doomfist playing in competitive. And the thing is, even if you were good, even if you proved that, if one thing goes wrong, they'll instantly blame it on you just because you picked someone they didn't like. And that's what sucks about it. But let's just get back to talking about Moira. Now, I've said pretty much all I've wanted to say about Moira's kit, and I may be sounding like I'm discrediting Fade, but there's not really much to say about it. It's very useful when escaping ults, burst damage ults, may I mind you, that there is an imminent danger that you know is there, that you can see, that you can hear. Then you use Fade. And possibly use Fade to advance on a target. That's okay, but you gotta be prepared for the consequences if they don't act like you thought they were gonna do after you use the Fade. Maybe they're trying to bait it out just so you can't run away. So you never know. I'd say stick to using Fade in emergency situations only, and occasionally if you're trying to transverse yourself somewhere faster. But practice that. Practice jumps with Fade, long jumps with Fades. I do encourage mobility with Fade, but I also highly suggest when you're first starting out with Moira and such, you definitely want to keep Fade to emergency uses, because if you get too carried away with using just Fade all the time for anything, then you're going to have a problem getting used to seriously using it in emergency situations. But I'm going to do some commentary on a video of me playing Moira, and let's jump right in. So as you can see, I've already picked Moira. Okay, doing all good, So far, so good. I'm congratulating myself for picking Moira. What the fuck is wrong with me? And
science will reveal the truth.
She's off.
Look after yourselves out there.
Now, as you can see, I tried immediately to get the maximum distance out of my Fade by jumping and pressing L1 at the same time. Now, right here, you'll see me doing a little bit of practice trying to get 2 jumps out of the first jump and Fade, and then the last little jump and Fade. Now, as you can see, I do it successfully a few times, and I'd say use that technique when you're like going up kind of ramps, like staircases and such, and maybe upward walkways, because I got an extra jump out of that, and it was way longer than the last one. Now, you see me experimenting with the environment, because I hadn't done that before I started getting footage with this video. You kind of want to experiment with different environments to see if you'll be able to transverse in certain ways. Now you can see there, Reinhardt's pulling up, and our Reese is asleep. I immediately throw a Harmony Orb. You know, I'm just going to refer to them as Harmony Orbs and Discord Orbs for the little bit of the rest of this video. So much more simple. As you can see, I'm trying to take as much life as I can. Now that's a mistake on my part. I shouldn't be pushing forward. Here's a good thing I did though. I saw those were 2 low health people immediately throw out Harmony, no questions. Now it's getting a bit dicey. There's someone on the point. I'm about to die. Moira threw out Discord Orb, and I orbs, and I left the last of my life to that Ana. But I was foolish about it, and the Ana died immediately. What I should have turned back and done is turned around, spun around, attacked, and hopefully escaped the situation by throwing out a healing biotic orb. So it was my mistake. Now you can see I'm trying to help this soldier escape, but he doesn't really take my hints and stays behind. That's something that you also want to do. I heard from another guy that you don't want to provide constant healing for your team. Now it sounds stupid, I know, but you can only kind of sprinkle healing, like I said before, if you want to be efficient. You can't really like constantly spray it like it's some kind of mercy healing beam. You can only sprinkle it, and you want your team to know that you can't do it constantly. But anyway, back to the video. Now as you can see, a Sombra just canceled my ult. That sucks. And I could have gotten quite a few of them too, but that Sombra was smart. She knew what I was doing. Now you can see I threw that Discord at the Reinhardt. I did not see those two targets, both of them. I just saw the Reinhardt. Now something you want to do to maybe intimidate Reinhardts is throw Discord at them when they have their shields up, because it might disorientate them to have a Discord orb like floating right next to their head doing damage, especially if they do not have a healer. However, this one does have a healer, so I probably shouldn't have done this either. But on the bright side, me and this Tracer did get that Sombra down, so that Sombra's not going to be able to help push in on this team fight by hacking anybody. Now our Tracer did die. I tried to provide her healing, but it didn't work. Now something you can see I did there is I jumped up and I tried to use healing. Now, like I mentioned previously, see what me and that McCree just did? We jumped down at the same time. We attacked the soldier at the same time. We have similar priorities, and that's what you want when you're helping your flankers. You want a bond together to where you guys know what each other are going to do, and you develop that throughout the game. So while the beginning may not be perfect, later in the game you'll start to, I'd say, learn about your teammates and what their strats are, and then you'll be able to follow their movements. Now you may be wondering why I didn't throw a healing orb out, or a harmony orb out. It's because if I did, what would it be doing? It'd be too late. It wouldn't be fast enough. Now then you may be saying, well, you threw a Discord out there, because I knew it was going to be useful. It was going to help me do more damage. And when it comes down to it, even if you don't have any healing missing from your healing bar, you still need to take advantage of that ability to do healing and damage. Now, I don't know what happened there to that orb. It just kind of bounced back at me for some reason. But I go down here, okay, because I thought I saw some shots fired at that wall on the other side of that tunnel. But I do not think it was anything. I think it was just an enemy firing at the wall from somewhere else. Now, like I said, you learn to bond with your DPS, which means you learn what they can do. I eventually learned throughout this match that the McCree can definitely handle himself in situations of heavy pressure, and the Tracer will go out no matter what it takes to kill that one flanker. She cannot be outflanked. Arisa is pretty good with her pulling orbs, but she could use some practice with her shields. Now I'm just pointing these things out kind of as an example of how you can remind your team to do things like, hey Arisa, maybe you should start putting out your shield a bit more, you know, so and so. But other than that, we had a rough beginning, and we lost the round previous to this. Other than that, this is not going so bad for us. Now, I don't know why, but I tried to throw a damage orb out. I don't know what that would have done for us. Now we only have 1 minute 30 seconds left right about now, and I'm just taking the higher ground so I can get the pounce on enemies. Now I believe Diva delayed that projectile, and now I'm staying with my team because they just got they got hacked, but they eventually pushed through with that. Now McCree's being smart. He's kind of staying with the shadows, kind of waiting for their goal moment. Now I throw out a damage orb. Why? Because there's no one on the payload to heal. Now, I believe at this point, they're very close to the door, and we're just trying to stop them. So I throw out a damage orb here, which was a smart move for me because it damaged multiple people and did something for us. Now I throw a healing orb out here. I do that because I know ricochet back at our Orisa and our Tracer and whoever else is there. These are just quick split-second decisions you have to make. It seems that most of the members in the Overwatch lore of Talon are you have to be very quick-witted with them. Reaper is one of the slower ones. You don't have to be super quick. You just have to have a decent reaction time and know how to get close. Now you see, I intended to throw that damage orb at Sombra. I didn't really mean for it to ricochet back into where she was going, which ended up working out for me. So just remember that, in my advice, if there's a wall behind an enemy that's low or something, throw it at them. You might get a little something extra for doing that. So even though it may not seem like an important kill, they could be. You never know. Now you could see, this is what you want to see in any play of the game. If you're Moira in a game, you could see my damage biotic orb floating around, and you could see that my damage beam was attached. That's what you want to see in the play of the game. But I think that's all I'm gonna say for now. It's been nice talking about Moira. I got a lot of ranting, and at the same time information I want to get off my chest. And do a video. It's gonna take forever to upload, and no one's gonna watch it. I spent like an hour editing this video, no one's gonna watch it. Anywho, I hope all of you have a wonderful day, unlike me, and I don't know, just play Moira. Go ahead, go try her. No. Do it. I believe.